early, but that's okay. I want to try to get through Revelation 10 today if we can. If we don't, that's okay too. So, as always, let's have our little summary. Revelation chapter 1. What do we typically refer to that chapter as in terms of what it's trying to do? It's an introduction to John, where John's at, what he's doing. And then we get to chapter 2 and chapter 3, we come across what? Letters to the churches. How many churches are there? 7. And again, that number means something, especially in the Hebrew. And I've told you before, the Hebrew, even their letters, so the Aleph, the Bet, they each had a number associated with them. Numbers was a big thing. And 7 is considered that perfect or complete number. So whenever we say the 7 churches of Asia, who's he really talking about? He's talking about everybody. He's talking about everybody, right? Now, one important thing to remember is John is speaking. He will talk about the past. He will talk about the present. He will talk about the future. When we talk about chapter 2, 3, the chapters we've been in so far, what are we talking about? We're talking about pretty much the present or the very near future, not some 2,000 years later when Christ will come again. Christ has already come. But we're talking about very near future. John would say the time is at hand, right? So, real quick, name the churches. Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Laodicea, Philadelphia. Got one more. Sardis. Very good, very good. Then we get into chapter 4. And what did we say about chapter 4? What is the purpose of that? Yes, God is deity. The Father is deity. The Spirit. Now the Spirit gets talked about just a little bit, right? Both in chapter 4 and chapter 5. But both are deity. And then chapter 5, of course, Jesus is deity. All right, so we got into chapter 6, and what did we start getting into? Remember, Jesus was holding something, and he was the only one that could open what was on it. What was on the scroll? Seals, right? Jesus is the only one able to open it. And in chapter 6, we begin to open those seals, correct? We talked about the first horse, the legendary 4 horsemen. First horse was white, had a bow and a crown. And we said that represented what? It represents judgment. Well, it can be, but it's basically the church and its war against sin. The body of Christ. Think about that. And the body of Christ, he has a bow. He's at war. Has a crown. He is king. Okay? And he goes out and is at war with sin. Okay? Then we had the second horse that was red, representing war. Wars would come along. And remember, God is always in control. God is doing his thing, even today. Now, we see a lot of these things John was talking about that would come soon to pass. But are we to think God stops there? Absolutely not. He's doing it today. The same things that he's doing here. But red being war, black being what? Economy and injustice. Okay, so remember the scales, and it says 1 grain versus 3, or 1 portion versus 3 portions. It's about inequality of economy. And then the pale horse was death. People are going to die, and some will die on the basis of God's revenge against sin. The 5th seal was what? The martyrs. Remember the martyrs under the altar? And what did they cry out? When are you going to bring us justice? Okay. And then we had the sixth seal, right? And we saw the things with the sixth seal. And then there was a transition. There was an interlude, right? Because the first seal is opened in 6, but when does the seventh seal we haven't even got to yet. And that's where we're going to get to this morning. So we have the transition of Revelation to 8. The 7 seals were introduced, and we'll see this idea of the trumpets. Excuse me. So let's start off with this opening of the 7th seal. Now, when the 7th seal is open, immediately we see silence in heaven. Okay? Why do you think there's silence? What do you think that represents? Has God ever asked for silence in the past? I'm sorry? It was in awe? Is that what you said? Yeah, that's exact. God requires, and he's done it in the Old Testament a number of times. I think there's 6 places where he asks for silence. And what that is for us to take the time to be in awe of God and to respect God. So he's basically asking for us to take that few minutes, that 30 minutes, to set our minds upon him. Oftentimes, you've been to events where someone's passed away, and they'll say, let's take a moment of silence. And that moment of silence, what do you typically do? You remember the one who passed away. And that's what God is doing here. It's the reverence to God himself. Then we have 7 angels receiving trumpets. Okay? And we'll see those trumpets sounded. When you look at Revelation, again, this number 7 pops out a lot. You got the 7 seals, you got the 7 trumpets, you got coming up the 7 bowls. Okay? So we'll keep that in mind, again, being complete or perfect or completely finished. And then it says in verse 3, and another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne of God. And the smoke of the incense, which came with prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hands. So we have this angel with incense, and the smoke goes up, and what does it represent? Prayers, right? Prayers rise up before God. Is this unusual for us to see? Not if we studied the Old Testament, right? We saw it in the altar. Now, after Jesus came, and of course the temple's destroyed, you might say that we still have incense and sacrifices, but they're now spiritual, right? Not physical. In which priests offer up those sacrifices and those prayers to God today? We do. We're the priest. Correct. So the angel is offering up all these prayers to God, okay? And once he's finished, what does he do with those coals and ashes? Well, he cast it to the earth. It says, and the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. All right, so the fire gets thrown down to earth. Now remember, a lot of people take this as some future event that's taking place, right? But we're promised that in the end, at the judgment, is it going to take place on earth? No. Everybody's going to leave this earth. The earth will be destroyed. And we're going to see that the whole earth is not destroyed as we go through this. So what he's talking about are events that are going to take place before the judgment. So all of this is before the judgment. Even the 7th seal, which in essence, is judgment, but it's not the final judgment, okay? Now, when he throws the fire to earth, that's the representation of God's justice for men, for Christians, mankind. So our prayers go up to God with the incense, and then God has the angel pour his judgment or his justice down upon the earth. So now we get into the trumpets. We have the first trumpet. So it says, and the first angel sounded, and this is verse 7, and hail and fire mingled with blood were cast upon the earth, and a third part of the trees were burnt up, all the green grass was burnt. So we have this fire, this hail, blood, right? So whenever we see fire and hail, that reminds us of destruction, correct? Whenever we see blood, we think of pain, anguish, death, okay? And what it says here, it tells us that 1/3 of the earth is going to be burned up. Now, at this time, in John's time, in 95-ish to 98 AD, who's in control as far as government? Pharaoh? Nero, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was like, Pharaoh? Well, that's way back there. Yeah, so Rome is in charge. We have Nero, and actually, so what God is going to do, and we know, especially when you look at what Nero did to Christians, what Domitian did to Christians, they were very, very bad towards the Christian. And of course, Christians are praying for relief from this. And God is going to get that relief. So the first thing he does with the first trumpet is he talks about affecting what? It says basically the earth, the trees, the grass. And what he's going to do is he's going to cause problems with things like crops, trees. And you need trees to build things and things like that. And of course, now you think about America today, and let's say we had some wildfires, a few hurricanes, some tornado outbreaks, and 1/3 of America was destroyed. How much of an effect would that have on us? Tremendous effect, right? Tremendous effect. Now, that is what he's trying to do, is he's bringing justice upon the Roman Empire. Now, do we know through history what happens to the Roman Empire? It's going to go away, right? There's some, and even I will contend that it's come back, and we'll talk about the 7-headed beast later on. That's a number of chapters ahead of us. But this Roman Empire is going to be hit hard, and eventually it's going to die away. Now, the thing to remember is, again, God is prophesying for what he's doing right here. But does that mean he does any different today? Absolutely not. Do we have people in the world today that are suffering, that send prayers up to God? They're suffering from governments and things like that, and they send prayers to God. And will God do things to those governments to take care of them? Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, again, mm-hmm. That's it. The same hope exists, right? Because yeah, absolutely. You know, when God sets the church up, or has set the church up, and what he does for the church that we see in the Bible, he will continue to do throughout time until Jesus comes again. Now, there's some things that, of course, the first church did that are no longer there, like the miracles, right? But he tells us that's going away. But this, we can rest assured that if he took care of the Christians in the days of the Romans, he'll take care of the Christians in our day and time that are suffering and in need. So yeah, 1/3 is burned up. So yeah, that's a big number, correct? So now we get to the second trumpet. And the second trumpet says, "And it sounded as if it were a great mountain burning with fire that was cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed." So we have this image of this burning mountain falling into the sea to bring justice by way of the sea. And it tells us the sea becomes blood. Now, that representation again is of things that are dying, blood that is brought. And it mentions a couple of things there, right? It mentions that sea life is going to be destroyed. And then it mentions that ships are going to be destroyed. So two things in this trumpet. The trumpet is really about those things of the sea. But for God to bring his justice on the sea, he's going to destroy sea life and ships. Well, what are on ships? Trade and people. So, and was Rome highly reliant on sea trade? Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was the fastest and quickest way to do trade with the east and to their west and to their south, into Egypt, Carthage. Carthage was a huge port. So it says that ships are going to be destroyed, whether that's by storms or whether that's by wars, which we know that they had a lot of naval wars. There was, in Tacitus talks about one ship with 600 men on it that would go down. And then it talks about the sea life. Now, imagine, and you know, we have it sometimes, like we'll have a red tide here at Galveston. You ever heard red tide? And what happens to the fish? They go belly up. Now imagine a third of the fish going belly up in the Mediterranean Sea. Is Italy or Rome highly reliant on seafood? Even today, they are highly reliant on seafood. So how tough would that be? So now we're talking about you've got fish destroyed, you've got economy being destroyed by boats going down, you've got, crops being burnt and destroyed by hail. So would they be hurting? Absolutely. Even more now with this new justice. Now we have the third trumpet. It says, "And the third angel sounded, and there was a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon a third of the rivers and upon the fountains of the water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood." Excuse me. "And a third part of the waters became wormwood. Many men died of the waters because they were made bitter." So we've got this star called Wormwood coming down. Now, don't be confused, because we're going to see another star fall here shortly. But this is not Satan. Wormwood is used 9 times in the Bible, 7 of them in the Old Testament, twice here. And the definition of wormwood is bitterness. Now, when he talks about falling on the water, before he talked about the sea, but now he's talking about fresh water, okay? So when it says the wormwood, the star goes into the water, it's going to bring bitterness. Now, what was one of the great achievements of Rome in terms of water? The aqueducts. Yeah, we often overshadow just how sophisticated and civil they were, but they had a great running water system. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Absolutely. And we do a lot of the same things. Now, we got chemicals and other things, but like the set, no pumps. Did you know they even would, for a cost, bring running water into your house? I mean, that's, considering what we see today, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That'd be pretty nice. Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you don't have any basements here in Southeast Texas, right? Yeah, absolutely. They were sophisticated and they did a great job with water. But if God, and if God wants to hurt them, this is a great way to hurt them. Now you think about water and you think about what could hurt you. What could happen to that water? Gets non-drinkable, or it's drinkable with problems. Diphtheria, right? Which back in the day killed a lot of people because, of course, they didn't have antibiotics back then, right? So you got some of this stuff, and it was 50-50 chance, right? So there's... Can't comprehend. Right. Absolutely. And, you know, we, like my house, I pump water up from about 500 feet deep, right? And the good thing about that is it's been filtered, even though there's still other stuff in there, and I filter that as well. And they didn't necessarily have that. Now, yeah, they did. They have sediment pools where stuff will drop out. But when it comes to some of these diseases and stuff, you know, and you could ruin a whole water system by throwing a dead cow in it, right? So God is going to take that bitterness upon the waters and hurt them that way. And many are going to die from this. All right, let's look at the fourth trumpet. It says, "In the fourth angel sounded, a third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise." Okay, so we have this trumpet come up, and 1/3 of the moon, the stars, are darkened. Now, you know, what would that represent in terms of justice of God? Well, you can think in terms of physicality. If you got a problem, and we've seen it before, we've seen volcanoes erupt and change the whole weather. Krakatoa, when it erupted, I forget what year that was, but they had a terrible winter. Lost crops. People died from not having enough to eat because everything was darkened. They said one summer, the summer sky was red all summer, which means you're not getting good, true sunlight, correct? But outside of that, it also represents something else. What did these Romans worship? Yes, sir. Yeah. No sunrise. Yeah. 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 Yeah, you know, in northern Scandinavia, they actually have what they call sunrooms for that purpose because they're like that. They only get a few hours in the winter, so they go to the sunrooms to help them with depression. So, yeah. But also, when we start thinking about the religion of the time, they worshiped the sun, the moon, the stars. So now if that's blocked out, what are they to think? And God's purpose here is to show them there is no power in those things and to try to get them to turn to Him, right? Try to get them to see that He is the true one to worship. All right. Then it says, and I beheld an angel flying in the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of other voices of the trumpets of the three angels which are yet sounded. So he tells us here that these are meant to be woes, okay? And you still got three more to go. So we have this next angel. It says, And the fifth angel sounded, and a star fell from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key to the bottomless pit, or the pit of the abyss. Now, what did Jesus say in Luke 8:31? Do you remember? He said, I saw fall from heaven like a star, right? So what we have here is we have a representation of Satan falling to the earth. And we have the abyss is opened. Okay? Now, Satan has fallen to earth. And again, this is all near term, right? And the representation is that he has the key. And what key is that? To hell or to sin, correct? And then the abyss that's talked about, you know, in terms of when we talk, when we preach, when we discuss things, we talk about the church, and then the opposite of the church we call what? The world. And that is the abyss that he's talking about here. The sin in the world. And it's an abyss. It's huge. And it's not controlled, but it's definitely enticed by Satan. And I say that because who can Satan make sin? Not a single person. We sin on our own. It's our fault. He can only entice us with things to make us sin. Now, it says after that, what happens? It says, And he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose out smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And basically what this is the sin of the world. This nasty smoke. And, you know, back in the days, back in the 70s and early 80s, you know, you drive, I used to tell people I knew where I was I could lay down in the back seat and I knew where I was because, you know, I'd be laying there and all of a sudden I'd get that smell and I'm like, oh, we're at Goodyear, right? Oh, man, we're in Channelview. And that nastiness, and that's what this smoke is. It's the nastiness of sin. And then it says he's going to take care of that, and it was commanded them that should, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and they were given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which had not the seal of God in their forehead. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should torment them 5 months, and their torment was as a torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. It says, And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall rise, or shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. So it says here that these locusts are going to come out. And when you typically think about locusts, what do you think about them doing? Eating everything. I mean, they can destroy a crop in a matter of an hour, right? And their purpose is to destroy, but he specifically says, don't destroy what? The things that they normally would destroy. What are they going to do is he's going to destroy man. Okay? Now it says he's like a scorpion. Anybody ever been stung by a scorpion? Yeah? Never have. I've seen a few, but never have. Got stung by, you can see my swollen hand here. I got stung by a wasp. That's kind of like a scorpion. And it hurts. Really? Yeah. I know we used to see them all the time up there at Camp Red Oak Springs, you know. Yeah, they sting like a bee, and yeah, they hurt. It hurts. And that's the idea. Not that these, you know, and you'll see these pictures of locusts with big stingers and stuff. It's just saying these guys are going to hurt. They're going to hurt you so bad you're going to want to die. And notice here he says for how long? 5 months, right? Now, is that a literal 5 months? It's just a representation of time of when this is going to happen. And that these locusts are going to torment people. Now, notice here, and I always like this one, the last one here. It says that they cannot target who? The people with the seal